when, I guess, do you have a love for coffee while you're there? And then, I mean, where does the coffee thing, because do you leave there, you graduate and think, I'm going to go home and then I'm going to travel and go to Colorado, go to the mountains? Like, what happens in that period?
So it's funny that this was back in, so I get to Nashville in 2001. This is when coffee was taking off. And it looked like Starbucks, and it looked like Caribou in certain markets, and it looked like these big things, but it also looked like these little mom and pop places with, you know, dark colors and stages and open mic nights and, you know, poetry readings and all these things, right? And that was coffee for us in this country. And as a student looking to, so there's 4 different categories of music business that kind of, what are they called? Little legs you can take. So my direction was management.
Okay.
And so because of that, we were doing classes on things like, you know, record label management and artist management, all these things that are management, operational.
People management, yeah.
And so because of that, we obviously we spent a lot of time in these little venues trying to like work out deals for artists and do all these things. But what it boiled down to is I spent a lot of time there just doing studies and hanging out with friends. And we started every night meeting at one of those type of places. We finished every night meeting at one of those types of places. It became clear to me that's like, man, what would it be like to have a venue? A spot where we can promote the arts in all those forms. So it could be live theater sketch, it could be music, it could be poetry, it could be book readings, it could be film, who knows? But what would it look like to have a spot that was very well set up for those kind of live arts, but also had great coffee, maybe had some wine. And so I got hooked on this idea of venue, of space, and didn't really, I drank coffee sorta, you know, but it wasn't my thing. But so I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to open this venue. I didn't know where. That didn't matter. It was just, I was going to do it.
But it was more about the venue rather than what was going to bring.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the transition, and I think this is the best part of my story, is it went from, if you're going to own something, you got to know something. And so of course I sort of knew I had been booking shows and doing things like that through high school. Mm-hmm. So I sort of understood throwing an event and the kind of work it took and creating the partnerships with vendors and sponsors. And I knew that. I knew a little bit about booking traveling shows for artists. I'd done that a little bit. I knew about playing because I'd done that too. So I had an idea of the art side. Mm-hmm. I wasn't super worried about that, but the coffee side I didn't know anything about. It just seemed, I was one of those guys that look at a coffee menu and think, that's a lot. How does these people remember all of this stuff and know how to do it? And I didn't get it. And so by that point, I guess it was my end of my sophomore year, Belmont launched their entrepreneurship program. Mm-hmm. So it was a brand new school within the business school. And I was like, man, I front loaded all my music business courses. So I didn't have any music business specific courses left except for my capstone. Great. And so I had 2 years ahead of me, probably 2.5, even at full time. It's a huge program. And so I was like, well, I have just general electives. That's it. So I switched. So I went and talked to the dean of the entrepreneurship school, who ended up being, he's probably been the most impactful kind of business mentor I've ever had. And basically found out that if I were to switch, I could probably graduate with 2 summer courses within 4 years, total. So I'd be out in my normal to 2 years left. And so I started realizing, man, this would be really helpful if I want to open this place. So I switched majors, jumped over to entrepreneurship, and started this process of unpacking what it means to be a business owner. And I was thankfully a part of a program that was geared toward the entrepreneur. So it wasn't a case study based program, which are very helpful. But this one was geared to the entrepreneur. We spent semesters talking about what it means to own the company and the impact it is on you personally and how you define success and what you're going to do to exit and all these things that nobody wants to talk about in business, because we want to talk about selling, which is an exit, but we want to talk about getting big and the margins and operating capital and all the fun stuff. And
getting bought out by a giant company and all the rest of it, and retiring on the beach.
But we don't want to talk about the impact on your family, and the fact that you're going to miss every holiday for the next 10 years,
18-hour days,
and you're going to be broke all the time, and your friends are going to be sitting in $60,000 a year jobs out of college and weekends off, and you're not going to have any of that. We don't talk about that stuff. But luckily we got to. And part of that deal was you have to know your business because you're it. Mm-hmm. No one's going to like it as much as you, and you're it. You are the janitor, you're the CFO, you're the CEO, you're the head of marketing, you're the head of people. You better learn something about it. And so he challenged me to learn about the coffee, because my answer was always, I'm going to hire the coffee management out. I'll hire a manager, they'll do the coffee, we'll be fine. I'll do the art and the management of the place, they'll do the coffee, perfect. I don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. And he challenged me to learn that stuff. So I met with a couple of coffee shop owners I really respected in Nashville, who for some reason said yes to meeting with some, crazy Belmont
college
kid.
student.
That has this big idea to make this cool, coffee company. And so I met with them. We started diving in. I started realizing that this coffee was this iceberg that I had no idea about. And there was, I see it. Like what I'm seeing though is like this tip. It's the final step in this process that is so deep. And I started realizing as I was unpacking it that I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me learn more about that. And I realized as I was leaving Belmont, there's a lot that I loved about the coffee, and I was losing interest in, as coffee was changing culturally in our country, but especially where I was in Nashville. I was like, man, this could be awesome. Like, what does this look like if I learn more about coffee? I started losing interest in like, I don't necessarily know if I would care about this, like all of this arts. Now arts need to be a part of it, but I don't think I want to be an art space that has a little bit of coffee. I think I want to be a coffee place that has a little bit of art.
Yeah.
And so that's how that transition started. Yeah. And I ended up diving into, met some now great friends in Portland when I was there and did these coffee classes, and they like immersed me in this like culture of kind of what was this like new wave of coffee operations that was starting on the, in that part of town of the country. And I just fell in love with what coffee was about. And I was learning about origin, about where it comes from and the people that are making it and different machines and how we can translate this and this, stylistic, spectrum of what coffee can be in the cup. And I realized, so it felt like every month it was like changing what I was, trying to come up with. Yeah. And so it was just a real evolution. And it was that change of, I took all that management stuff and I was doing it. I still love it, but the transition of trying to learn something new and be better, kind of changed my whole rotation because I didn't know before. And once you learn it, it's like, man, and I can still remember, like even when we had moved at that point, we had moved to Montana. Yeah. That's where we were going to launch it. I remember meeting with people that were going to be coffee managers and having these interviews that were way early. Yeah. But I needed to meet people because I didn't know enough at that point still. And I'll never forget thinking back on the fact that we missed out on so many leases, for this space. And like, man, knowing what I know now and, to actually launch something where we could open the door to people and what that would have looked like had we done it at that time with what we knew and in that place. I mean, what would have happened? I have no idea. It may not have been, we may have been out of business in 6 months for all I know. Yeah. But it was all that knowledge and that seeking. I don't even know how we got to this point in this conversation, but that transition was a huge deal. Yeah. And it really set the stage for, like learning what we can do to be better.
Right.